Hi, OP friend. I sound like a frog. Hi, OP friends. I feel like I went really editing crazy yesterday. It took me a long time as someone who has absolutely no editing experience. I just get caught in it. I want to add all the visuals and the text. It is taking me way too long. I have to do whatever makes me happy and whatever I like, and that's not always the simplest way. And so that's something I need a little bit more consciousness over. Ugh. I'm not anti-dog kiss. It's just that she's on a raw feed diet and she just had her breakfast, which was raw chicken and veggies. And I don't want that raw chicken on my mouth, if you know what I mean. Not if you know what I mean, ever. I don't want raw chicken on my mouth ever. So yesterday I did go a little editing and caption crazy. I know that a lot of people are coming from Myers-Briggs and some people might not know OP. So that was my attempt to assist with some of the terms so that people aren't just like, what the hell is she talking about with saviors and demons and animals? I hope it was helpful, but I did catch myself. I did not respect the sensory. And there was one instance where I put number one, something, something, and then the next two didn't even have number two or number three. I do have a hard time with that, as they say, respecting the sensory. I tend to just breeze through that. And this has been a problem my entire life. I'm in marketing, so I do a lot of social media and email marketing. Email marketing specifically, you have to be diligent about checking all of your links, making sure nothing's broken, that things have been updated from the previous month. And it was things like that that I would always just overlook. I know if I just took the time to double check, triple check my work, it wouldn't be a problem. Maybe 8 out of 10 times, I just go ahead and submit it, or even worse, blast it out with the wrong information. And I'm just like, oh, oops. But how many times can I oops my way through life without it showing badly on me? And I think that is the motivation. It's like, okay, I've done this so many times. I don't want this to become like a term like, oh, she pulled a Candace. So that's been my motivating force in trying to be a little bit better about the details, but it's something that I struggle with. I'm just blind to it. I know that a lot of people say that I do talk about things and that I don't use a lot of analogies here in my videos. And so they say, she's sensory, she's lead sensory, but I don't know, is that lead sensory if I'm super blind to the sensory details and I can't talk about details and specifics? I'm very comfortable talking about my emotions and perceptions and other people's perceptions, but I cannot, for the life of me, talk about sensory details. That is when I start sounding like a babbling baby. When people are asking me specifics and metrics and details and specs, I'm just like, I don't know. I'll give you a guess based on what I think I remember. Maybe I'll get a few of the digits right, or it sounds similar to what I think the answer is, and I'll do my best to get as close to it as possible. But yeah, don't ask me the sensory. I don't know. Maybe one of these days I'll think of a sensory topic and try to struggle my way through it just to show you guys how bad I am at it. Yes, I talk about people and celebrities in relation to typing. And yes, I talk about social media networks, things. I do talk about things, of course, but I think I'm talking about how they make me feel or how I think they might be useful or just all the ways that they are rather than the actual hard physical specs themselves, because I can't do that. Well, if you guys are joining me for the first time, I come from the Myers-Briggs world where I am trained and certified. I am an INFP all day long, inside out, upside down, INFP. But I am learning about OP because I am enamored with the idea that there are 512 personality types instead of 16. And in that world, I don't have an official typing yet because, as we all know, only Dave and Shen can do the accurate assessments, right? Everybody will tell you that. But from the unofficial typings that I've gotten things like SIFI, FESE, TESE, FINE. It's all over the place. I attribute that to being more of a chameleon where I adapt to the situation and I think I answer in ways that I think that people want to hear rather than just being myself, which is stupid, but it's something I've done, maybe a coping mechanism to deal with my social anxiety. And so I'm very observant and I tend to match the energy of the other people in the room. That's just the way I've been. Yep, my typings are all over the place at the moment, but I am waiting on one team to get back to me that I'm really excited about. From watching my video once, they're the ones that came back with FESE and TESE, which is crazy because sensory is up there. And I still think that I am not inclined toward sensory. I can talk about things because I like describing things and the way things feel. That perspective I can go and talk about things all day long. But can I talk about the technical aspects? Can I talk about the sensory, the actual hard physical object details? No, not at all. Not at all. You have to corner me into talking about actual sensory details. So that's why I'm really surprised that SE came up in my initial assessment. That's so weird, but I don't know. Wow. I just recorded like 10 minutes of me going off about what I would do if I were ever a homeless to pass the time. And then I realized that I wasn't recording at all. Uh, 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 Oh, well, do you guys ever think if I were ever in a situation where I became homeless, like where would I go? Where would I sleep? How would I pass my days? Like, do you guys ever think about that? It's interesting to see how different homeless have their different systems, their different tools and their resources, and how they survive on a day-to-day basis. There's one a little bit younger, and he doesn't carry anything on him. He just has a jacket and he keeps his hands in his pockets and he just walks around all day long. No bags, no shopping carts, nothing. And then you have other ones who have multiple shopping carts with bags hanging off of it because they want to hoard the things that they have because that's all they have. Because of that, they're not very mobile. They have to stay with their carts. It's very interesting to see the different strategies that people adopt when they're forced to survive on the streets. And I always think to myself, okay, what would I do? What would I do if I were homeless? How would I pass the time? How would I prevent myself from going crazy? Because I would go crazy. And I am so fascinated by documentaries and firsthand accounts and books and experiences related to solitary confinement where people are in isolation for so long that they literally go crazy. And I think I'm so fascinated by it because I'm so afraid of it. I know that I would go crazy if I were forced into isolation for years. Can you imagine that? Years of isolation. That is insane. So inhumane. I always thought to myself, okay, if I had to survive out on the streets, how would I handle it? And I think the best option for me is to just hope that I get picked up by some nice family or some nice shelter or some nice organization. Just because, I'm a 5 foot tall girl and I don't think I would survive on the streets. The best bet for me is probably to find an ally. But if that wasn't an option, I've already decided that, okay, I'm going to pick out like multi-level parking garages because that is shelter. It's off the ground. Or I would climb up on the roof of somewhere to be up off the ground to have visibility. If I need to find food, I think I would have no shame in approaching restaurants and fast food places and just asking, hey, do you guys have anything that's about to expire? I think I would have no shame in doing that. In the past, I thought, okay, maybe I would spend my days hiking, but then my husband was like, no, that's a waste of energy. You shouldn't be hiking all day. Yeah, I had never considered that, but I was like, okay, you're right. I think the only way that I wouldn't go crazy with all that time, all the judgmental stare, the only way for me to stay sane is to have books to read or even to just have an unlimited supply of paper and pen. If I had notebooks and a pen, I'd be fine. I could use that to brain dump. I could use that to express myself. I could use that to journal of what I'm doing to survive and what's working and what's not working. Write down all of my resources and how long it will last me, the tools that I've collected, spots that I should go back to that have water, places that have given me food. A paper and pen would be the only thing I need in order to not go insane, I think. Maybe there are lead FEs out there thinking, wow, she just went off on this homeless problem. And instead of talking about how to solve this problem or how to help the people or being compassionate, she just went off on how she would be homeless and how she would survive. Yeah, I did. So I don't know. Does that make me tribe over self? Or am I just simply talking about a thought experiment and it has nothing to do with how I actually feel about the homeless? Right? So I don't understand how videos can be an accurate and objective source of typing because how do you know my actual intention? What if I'm just bringing that up, but it's not necessarily my thoughts on the homeless problem? I don't know. It's interesting to know that everything you say in the typology world is going to be scrutinized in that way. I figure rather than trying to be a certain way, I'm just going to just dump out my brain and just lay it all out so that if it's more confusing, good. People are complex. People are confusing. We all have things that are in our heads that we don't actually speak out of our mouths. Last night, I watched Brene Brown's typing class. I believe that she was typed SITE, which was very interesting because from the Myers-Briggs lens, I could have sworn that she was some type of ENFP or something along those lines. An ENFP who was very diligent about respecting the sensory. I'm very familiar with her work. I've watched all of her TED Talks and specials. I own a few of her books, and I just think she's an amazing person. I myself would love to go into research like that, where it is scientific research that is grounded. It is research that is grounded in the scientific method, so it's provable, but you're diving into subjective human emotion. That's something that I'm really fascinated by, and it's the space I could live in all day, is studying human behavior, studying human perception, and that is what she was able to do. The time she has spent studying human behavior and studying emotions. And it's such a flimsy topic that has never been studied before, but she has proven that she can take thousands and thousands of interviews, start to look at the emerging patterns and the facts, and come to these conclusions. And so I think what she's doing is absolutely incredible, but I do have some criticisms of her class typing. But they immediately right off the bat say, okay, so she is gathering thousands of stories from people. She's pinging off the tribe and getting feedback, and therefore she must be play energy. What if she has felt so disrespected in the scientific community for so long that she needed to figure out a way to make it respectable? And by gathering thousands of real interviews, she is able to assess something that is subjective. Maybe it's not necessarily that she wanted to go out and use play energy to do this. Maybe she just had to do it to prove herself. And throughout her interviews, she does preface all of her conclusions by saying, once I gathered all the data and looked at all the data and saw the emerging patterns, then I was able to come to these conclusions. But what if she's just saying that to stage it for the scientific community, to gain credibility in her work? What if it was the other way around, where she actually did have a feeling of where this was going to go? Then she went out and said, okay, I'm going to prove this, because she's speaking to a very critical scientific community. If I was in her shoes and I had to prove myself, and I was the only one studying subjective emotions in a scientific world, that's exactly how I would state it too, regardless of whether it happened that way or not. I guess what I'm saying is I'm still a little bit skeptical about OP. I know that the classes are very condensed down to be able to fit it into an hour, and so there's probably a lot of content that we're not seeing. There's probably a lot that's being skipped over. Maybe what they're saying is right and I'm taking it out of context, but I just know that as someone who is very interested in typology and human emotions, human behavior, psychology, to break into the research community, the scientific community, I would gain credibility and respect through thousands of interviews from people, because that's the only way you're going to get the research, is you have to talk to people, because it is a topic that requires people to share their story. I think she's smart enough to know that, okay, my audience is a very critical scientific audience, and this is how I'm going to have to strategize. This is how I'm going to have to phrase it in order to be successful. And they also talk about her willingness to debate. It says, give me a reason, challenge me, debate me. And I think that also makes a good researcher, is being able to back up your research. And so of course you're gonna say, prove me wrong, I want to know. And I feel like that should be a standard trait, I would think. So I've been having trouble with titling my videos. I tend to talk about 3, 4, 5 subjects in each video. And it's just because, one strings along to the next and it kind of gets long that way. But because of that, I never know what to call my videos. I've even considered splicing it up into just smaller, shorter videos and then releasing those on a day-to-day basis instead of doing one super long video every day. I mean, this whole channel started as me trying to speak every day and to document my journey, and that's why it sort of took the form of a video diary. But at this point, I feel like I should condense my videos into shorter segments so that it's a little easier to digest. And everybody has short attention spans anyway, including myself. And I don't know if I would have the patience to sit through multiple topics when this is what I was going to get into, but I have to pass these 3 levels in order to get here. I'm also very excited that as of today, I have made 23 videos, 23 videos, which is closing in on a whole month. Maybe at the end of the month, I might switch over to doing video every other day. And that will just give me that time to do all the editing that I want, because I think editing is fun. And I think editing makes a world of difference because you can add in all these supporting text and effects and emojis and things that aid in being able to communicate. And so I think it's such a great part of the video process. It's not just what I'm recording, it's how I'm editing it and how I'm making it more digestible and more palatable and more enjoyable and a little bit more congruent to everybody's short attention spans. And it's also going to help me to have more time to devote to my schoolwork. I think I'm in the home stretch, probably have like I think I have like 4 to 5 weeks left. See, again, I can't respect the sensory. I have no idea when my classes end. So I'm gonna guess it's in the 4 to 5 week range, which means that all of my big papers and my big exams are coming up. So I think I need to do something to carve out that time. It's just gonna help me to put out higher quality videos. This is a problem that I was starting to run into is I was so burnt out from recording my video, doing my schoolwork, which is a lot. I'm taking 5 classes and it's not nothing. Like 5 classes is a lot. And I'm spending hours editing at night. And if I have the time, I'm squeezing in more learning about OP. It was getting to the point where when I woke up the next morning, I was just so tired. And because it takes me so long to adjust to waking reality, I go into my videos not knowing what to talk about. And I don't want to create poor quality videos. Like I always want to improve. I always want to improve. Since my first video, I have improved in so many ways. I want the trajectory to keep going up. I suck at ending my videos. This is the part where I don't know how to end it. Thank you for watching my ridiculous video, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Bye.